And I think the Centennial will probably encourage the movement forward, and the new name will be a challenge to the institution to continue the daring to excel that's characterized it all the way from 1905.
2005 marked the centennial anniversary of Southwest Missouri State University. It was a year of special events and celebrations that began in 2004 and concluded in June 2005. Southwest Missouri State University has a rich history, one of service, teacher education, and preparing students to be thoughtful, successful citizens in a global society. A highlight of the centennial year was the name change from Southwest Missouri State University to Missouri State University. My guest on this program is Don Landon, author of Daring to Excel, an in-depth history of the institution founded as Missouri State Normal School, 4th District, and that evolved into Missouri State University. Join us now for a discussion and review of SMSU's centennial year and the institution's evolving role. Ozarks Public Television and Missouri State University are proud to present Ozarks Watch Video Magazine, a locally produced program committed to increasing the understanding of the richness and complexity of Ozarks culture. Visit our website for more information. Welcome to Ozarks Watch. I'm Dale Moore. Glad you're with us. You know, SMSU just completed in 2004-2005 a long, wonderful centennial celebration year. And joining me today on Ozarks Watch to talk about that and to recap that year is a longtime friend and colleague of mine, Dr. Don Landon. Don, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Dale. Good to be here.
And of course, author of Daring to Excel, the great book, which we will talk about too during the program today. What a year.
What a year is right.
Fantastic. It started off with a bang, it ended with a bang. Why is it important, do you think, Don, just to get to the brass tacks of the matter, to publicly celebrate an event such as we just celebrated in the centennial year?
Well, first off, of course, Dale, the institution is a public institution. And, close to 100,000 people have taken degrees from this institution, probably the majority of them from around in the Ozarks area. Those people have had their life possibilities open to them. The part of education that is really invigorating to the individual is the discovery of their possibilities. And also, of course, it has interacted with the public setting here. It's enhanced the local economy. It has brought research opportunities to the local community that has helped to solve problems. It's just been deeply involved in the life of the Ozarks since 1905, and for that reason, the public ought to have been sharing in the celebration as they did.
There was a long conversation that started, and it lasted the entire year. And you heard people reminiscing about, just as you've suggested, their time at the university. And it seemed to me that the longer that we went in the centennial of the year, the more folks got excited about the different events. Let's talk about some of the specific events. There were many. There were many,
and you're right, the momentum built throughout the year. I remember, for example, one of the signal events early on was the music concert, the Centennial Concert.
Yes.
And to everyone's amazement then, we discovered that the music department had gone all out to include every conceivable instrument that is taught and played on this campus, including the carillon. And everybody walked away from that saying this was the finest demonstration of musical talent on the part of students and faculty. And from that point on, the expectations for the event just continuously built, I think.
And the departments got involved, and the colleges, and with different special things that they did throughout the year.
Well, there was an excitement that spread around the campus as a consequence of this policy of inviting colleges and departments and units in the university to participate in it. And each one brought to bear their own particular perspective, formed by the discipline background. For example, the philosophy department presented this remarkable symposium on ethics that was very appropriate and fitting for the time. And that contributed an enormous amount of energy as departments and colleges focused their own disciplinary insight into the celebration.
You know, as I look back on the year, I mean, there are two or three things that, there were many, but there were two or three things that really struck me as being awe-inspiring, and one was the Avenue of Flags.
I don't think anybody will forget the unfurling of that Avenue of Flags, which reminded everybody that even though in the very first year of the normal school's existence, it was already an international college because it had people here from Indian Territory, which subsequently became Oklahoma,
right. Yes.
But it also had one student here from Mexico. But now to realize that we have students here from nearly 90 different nations, as well as virtually every state in the Union, reminded people that this place has come a long ways and it's achieved a reputation now that is not only nationally known, but internationally known. And that was indeed a thrill to see all of those flags with representatives from all of those countries standing beside them. That was unforgettable.
That was unforgettable.
Yeah.
And of course, the centerpiece probably of the centennial year, and what will be a legacy, I think, the conference, the Public Affairs Conference.
Celebrating the intellect. And of course, obviously, that's kind of the key focus of a university. I mean, if the intellect isn't being stimulated, if thought isn't proceeding, if reasoning isn't being taught, then nothing of value is really happening there. And so we saw in that celebrating the intellect, the growing maturity of the institution and its ability to both attract talent and to use its own resources to address problems and issues of importance to people.
You know, one of the final events that we had in the centennial year was, of course, the time capsule. We buried the time capsule. And it was a large device. As it turned out, several items included in this. Now, you have some understanding and history, as you wrote in the book, about the original time capsule. What was in the original time capsule?
Well, the original time capsule included a variety of things. It included a copy of the legislative initiative that resulted in the formation of Normal School Number 4. It included coins, which were representative of the period. It included documents from the Masonic order that was appropriate because the Masonic order at that time was a chief player in Cornerstone's being established. And of course, over time, as you look now at the documents that are in there, you see an institution that has developed enormously with all kinds of resources and all kinds of expressions of excellence involved in it. And when people open that time capsule 50 years from now, we hope that they will look back and see this time capsule as a bit primitive, even as we look back and see that first one as a bit primitive. Where's it going to be 50 years from now?
Yeah, yeah. Well, we buried that, and as I said, we were overwhelmed with the reaction that we got from several folks. We opened it up to the community, for example. Yeah. And lots of fascinating things in there. Do you think we did we do our job? Did we do honor to the history of the institution and to the centennial year?
I don't think there's any doubt about it. The contagion of the centennial was palpable throughout the whole community. You know, people I met on the street would comment about the fact that, boy, you guys can sustain this for 12 months. And I replied back, I said, it isn't just a matter of sustaining, it's like holding on to the reins of a charging group of horses, really, because everybody was so enthused and was so capable of putting together expressions that celebrated the 100 years. Yeah, it was a exceptional centennial event.
We'll give you a taste now of what the centennial year was all about in this real brief video.
Well, I think one of the reasons our centennial occurred is to celebrate that daring to excel and coming together. And that means a lot about that word community. So the social events, the dedications, the activities that we did, I think helped demonstrate that we are a community, and a community that has been involved in daring to excel.
The Centennial Celebration has been a remarkable event, largely because of the increased momentum that it achieved as it went along.
We wanted the year to be a celebration. There were a number of events that were wonderful community-wide celebrations. The ice cream social early in the centennial year was well attended. The laser light show on a beautiful fall evening in the Ozarks was a spectacular event. Perhaps the most spectacular celebration of all was the Centennial Gala, which was billed as the party of the century and lived up to that billing.
It's a night that I know those of us that were able to participate will not forget. Not only was it a fun evening, and all sorts of mementos from the private label, wine from our Mountain Grove campus, to a real continuing legacy, our scholarships that came from the art auction. But that will be another continuing legacy of the university, the scholarships that come from that.
Faculty and staff and students in each of the academic colleges played important roles. Each of the colleges contributed a special centennial project to the celebration. The College of Natural and Applied Sciences did a Mapping the Past project using geospatial technology and also created a virtual arboretum and marked 100 centennial trees on our campus. The College of Health and Human Services created and dedicated a timeline featuring historic events in the health and human services professions, and also a wonderful mural to decorate the professional building. The College of Humanities and Public Affairs hosted a thought-provoking symposium on bioethics. The Colleges of Education and Business Administration, faculty and students in those colleges collaborated to make the one-room schoolhouse a reality on our campus. The College of Arts and Letters, the faculty and staff and students in that college planned and hosted a wonderful centennial concert featuring a special centennial composition. They also provided, throughout the centennial year, wonderful concerts on the Jane A. Meyer Carillon.
I know our Greenwood students were involved in the maypole, the hours and hours that they put in, practicing that maypole dance. Right? They dedicated a tree, a centennial tree out in front of Greenwood. It was a cold day, but the students were there, they were singing songs. Someone said it's hard to have something go wrong if we got a bunch of kids involved, and I think that's true. But very definitely, I think they felt not only a part of Greenwood, but a part of our SMS community.
One of the goals of the Centennial Steering Committee that we set early on was to leave a legacy. And we wanted to leave physical legacies as well as living legacies.
What makes SMS's anniversary special, first, is the history that Don Landon wrote, Daring to Excel. I've seen a lot of those, and this is by far the best, written by a very bright person who cares a great deal about the institution.
Don Landon has written the finest centennial book perhaps ever written. It has entertained us, it has guided us, it has taught us, and I think it will be of lasting significance.
There were a series of special events that I think characterize the public affairs mission that the institution had put into legislation in 1995. For example, the dedication of the Citizen Scholar statue of a young lady in graduation garb holding the world, indicating how important education is to the world's future. Or a dedication of the Avenue of Flags, over 100 flags attended by each of the students from around the world who are part of our student body that will be used for special occasions.
It's impossible to stand next to the Citizen Scholar statue and look down the Centennial Avenue of flags when they're on display without feeling like you're a member of a global community.
Seeing the 4 living presidents assembled for many of the events this year was a special thing. I don't think many institutions have been able to do that over the years, and the presidential administrations have a tremendous impact on the life and the character of the institution. So it was apparent to us that we needed to recognize the contribution that all of the presidents had made. And while it was true that there probably wouldn't be enough buildings to name for all the presidents, there needed to be a way to acknowledge that there was just exceptional leadership over the years.
The parliamentary room in the Union is named after President Trawick. We've dedicated a plaza for Marshall Gordon. We have President Mallory's dedication patio at the end of the North Mall. We also have the Kaiser Plaza, which is the focal point of that, of course, is the Citizen Scholar statue. So again, I think all of our dedication patios are places to gather, a place to help us become and recognize that we are a community here, and the opportunities to interact in those plazas will be with us forever.
On the Springfield campus, there are many lasting physical legacies of the Centennial celebration. Also on the West Plains campus, the Smith London Centennial Bell Tower will serve as a wonderful reminder of the Centennial celebration on that campus. And on the Mountain Grove campus around historic Faroe Hall is a Centennial garden featuring historic plantings that was dedicated near the end of the centennial year.
There's going to be so many visual reminders that will acknowledge the establishment and the acknowledgement of this university in our 100th year.
Founders Day was special for many reasons. The entire centennial year was a celebration of community, and on Founders Day, that sense of community was so strong you could reach out and touch it.
The Founders Day events, of course, included that panoramic photo that replicated the photos that was taken back in about 1906, I think. And looking at the crowd assembling, they kept getting larger and larger and larger. And I think everybody was just both delighted and surprised at how many people showed up for that event. And to be able to put pictures together like that, spanning almost a full century, is just a special way to commemorate the centennial of the university. And I think everybody that was there will remember that for a long time.
You know, another significant icon that we now have on this campus is our legacy wall. The plaques on the wall by the Plaster Student Union that are reflective of the different university presidents and what occurred during their tenure.
The Legacy Passage is a special place because it's the first time the institution has really tried to assemble the pieces of its history that would allow the public an opportunity to enjoy reading about the founding of the institution, the development over the years, and the evolution to the point where it ultimately becomes Missouri State University.
And to have the name change bill signed on that day was an event that was of historic significance and truly exciting. I think it will be a lasting memory for everybody who was involved.
The governor coming in saying the institution had reached a stage in its development where the name was not something it wished to achieve, but something that described what was already here. Being on the actual 100th anniversary date, that I think made it very special.
And I think most of the people that witnessed that event that day were conscious that there was a new era that was developing, and the excitement associated with that was just, well, it was felt by everybody. The
The Centennial Committee wanted to have a mix of events during the centennial year. We didn't want to have just one big year-long party. We wanted events that had academic substance, that made an intellectual contribution, that would leave a lasting and living legacy that would extend beyond the centennial year. And we wanted something that would be also a gift to the community. When we planned the Public Affairs Conference, which was outstandingly successful under the leadership of Drs. Kathy Pulley and John Strong, we chose that as our premier event because it accomplished so many of the goals that we had set.
You know, when we first started discussing in the Centennial Project Committee the kinds of things we ought to do, I suggested that we ought to have the opportunity to do a significant academic event that would demonstrate the maturity of the institution.
The Public Affairs Conference was modeled on the successful World Affairs Conference in Boulder. We brought almost 40 speakers from all around the world to campus without scripts to mix it up in panel discussions, to engage audiences in dialogues that are important for the century that we face.
We really didn't know for sure how big an event and how significant it could be. But I think ultimately it turned out to not only celebrate the intellect as it was intended to do, but it also gave some evidence about the institution's ability to pull off a major academic enterprise and to demonstrate its academic genius and its planning ability and to attract some very outstanding people to campus. It was just a signal event, really.
As I have reflected on this year, I have come away with two principles, two precepts that I will take with me from the Centennial Celebration. The first has served as our theme, Dare to Excel. The university has dared to excel, and to dare to excel every day is not a bad principle to live by. The second one is leave a legacy. We set that as a goal early on, and we have successfully achieved that goal, and that's another principle I'll take forward with me.
We talk about looking at the past, but I think this was a real opportunity. Maybe because it was tied to the name change during Founders Week, I think it's a look to the future. There's so many super things that occurred this year. Everything from that name change to the Centennial event, naming of a new president. So again, I think it was looked and will be looked by me very definitely as a new beginning.
Dr. Mike Nitzel is fortunate to come in riding on such a crest. The centennial year has been such an extraordinary event. 100 years is an extraordinary milestone in the life of a great university.
And it was a time for the university to reflect on a great past, but also to be looking forward to a really exciting future, one where it had earned a name change, where it had won the respect of citizens across the state of Missouri. And now taking time to celebrate that, those 100 years, but also to look forward with what we'd achieve in the next century, I thought it was a wonderful time for the university. And it was very nice for myself and Sandy to be able to play some very small part in those celebrations.
From the centennial history to all of the events to the name change, I suspect makes it unique, and I would challenge any other university in the country to be able to say that they've put that kind of package together.
The Centennial Celebration obviously has been tremendous, but if the Centennial has done anything, it has created a sense of history in this institution.
We're back with my guest Don Landon on this look back at the centennial year. Well, Don, as a researcher, as an historian, as a longtime faculty member, what can you say, or how do you feel, or what do you think about the way we've left things and what it forebodes or what it means to the new century that we're moving into now as a university?
Well, number one, Dale, I think the Centennial Celebration demonstrated the maturity of the institution. It's into its fifth iteration now, that is, it's into its fifth name. And those previous 4 periods represented periods of development which ultimately were consummated in 2 ways. The centennial celebration itself demonstrated the maturity of the institution, and then of course the new name, Missouri State University, is, as Dr. Kaiser said, descriptive of the content in the cans.
Right.
That's what's really there now. And I think the centennial will probably encourage the movement forward, and the new name will be a challenge to the institution to continue the daring to excel that's characterized it all the way from 1905.
Yeah.
I think it's launched onto a new career, so to speak, and I expect big things of the institution over the next 50 years.
I think it's in good hands.
I indeed agree it's in good hands. And a second thing that's important, the celebration illustrated the collaborative attitude that's present on campus, where ultimately everybody got into the thing, even naysayers and doubters who at the beginning didn't think that the celebration was going to be all that much. At the end, they were participating, they were collaborating, they were cooperating, and with that spirit, the institution's going to go places.
Well, thank you so much for, I know it was a labor of love writing the book. It was a lot of work, but thank you so much.
Thank you, Dale.
You've given us a true gift that we'll enjoy for years. And I think the book is still available at the bookstore. So if you don't have your copy yet, please pick up a copy of the book. It's great. And thanks again for being with us.
Thanks, Dale.
And we'll be right back with more Ozarks Watch after this. Episodes of Ozarks Watch Video Magazine are available in area libraries. Please visit our webpage for a complete list of these locations and for titles and descriptions of our shows. I want to thank my guest, Don Landon, and invite you to join us again soon for Ozarks Watch Video Magazine.